Imagine you could change your brain, not with surgery, not with medication, but just by thinking differently. No wires, no machines, just thought. This may sound like science fiction, but science says it's real. Your brain isn't a static machine. It's not locked into place after childhood. It's plastic, not in texture, but in behavior. Every memory, every habit, every repetition of thought etches a trace in your neural pathways. And some of those pathways, they can change, they can strengthen, they can weaken, they can rewire. This is the story of neuroplasticity and how your mind can literally shape your brain. For decades, scientists believed the brain was like concrete. Once it developed, it couldn't be changed. But in the 20th century, that idea crumbled. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to adapt, reorganize, and form new connections, not just during childhood, but throughout life. Break a bone? It heals. Break a habit? That's your brain rewiring. When you learn a new language, practice a skill, or even think a new thought often enough, your brain adjusts its wiring. It's not instant. It's not effortless. But it's powerful. Every time you revisit an idea or sensation, your brain reinforces that path, like a trail in a forest becoming more walkable with every step. Here's where it gets fascinating. You don't need to move your body to rewire your brain. In one study, 2 groups were tested on piano performance. One group physically practiced. The other just imagined practicing. After a few weeks, both groups showed measurable changes in brain structure. Almost the same areas activated and strengthened. The takeaway? Thoughts alone can activate the same circuits as actions. In another study, athletes visualized lifting weights. Though they didn't move a muscle, their strength increased measurably. How is this possible? Your brain doesn't always know the difference between doing and deeply imagining. So when you repeat a mental image, when you visualize, focus, rehearse, you're not just thinking, you're training your brain. At the core of this process are neurons, the brain's messengers. When you think, certain neurons fire together. The more often they fire in sequence, the stronger their connection becomes. This is the foundation of a famous saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. Think of it like this. If you walk the same dirt path every day, it deepens, it gets smoother, easier. Eventually, it becomes the default route. Your brain does the same with thought. Positive or negative, focused or distracted, whatever path you take most often becomes easier to take again. This is how thoughts become tendencies. Tendencies become habits, and habits become traits. But because the brain is plastic, you can build new paths too. And that's the hope, that by consciously choosing what you focus on, you can reshape the very structure of your mind. Let's move from lab experiments to real lives. One of the most dramatic examples of brain rewiring comes from stroke survivors. When a stroke damages one part of the brain, patients often lose the ability to move, speak, or even think in certain ways. But through therapy and mental rehearsal, some patients regain those abilities. Not because the damaged neurons recover, but because other parts of the brain take over. That's neuroplasticity at work. There's also the case of London taxi drivers. They spend years memorizing every street in the city, a test known as the knowledge. MRI scans show these drivers have larger hippocampi, the area of the brain involved in navigation. They didn't grow new brains. Their brains grew new maps. Every day, our experiences, habits, and focused thoughts are either reinforcing old connections or forming new ones. It's not magic. It's training. One of the simplest ways to begin rewiring the brain? Stillness. Mindfulness and meditation have exploded in popularity, and for good reason. When you meditate regularly, parts of the brain associated with fear and stress, like the amygdala, shrink, while areas responsible for focus, empathy, and decision-making, like the prefrontal cortex, grow thicker. This isn't just relaxation. It's structural change, and it's measurable. MRI studies have shown that even 8 weeks of regular meditation can visibly change the brain's gray matter density. The act of watching your thoughts without judgment creates new patterns of attention, emotion, and memory. It's proof that silence isn't empty, it's rewiring. But what about rewiring after damage? Emotional trauma can carve deep scars into the brain, repeating fear circuits, automatic negative thoughts, and survival mode responses. But just as trauma can rewire the brain in harmful ways, therapy can rewire it back. Rewiring is powerful, but it's not a miracle. It's a process, not a switch. And it works best when paired with action, consistency, rest, and nutrition. So while thoughts can reshape the mind, they don't do it alone. They require repetition, effort, and above all, belief. Because if you don't believe change is possible, your brain won't try to change at all. Does positive thinking actually work? Just think positive. You've heard it 1,000 times. But is there any science behind it? Surprisingly, yes, but with nuance. Repeated optimistic thinking doesn't just improve mood. It can increase motivation, boost problem solving, and reduce stress. It activates dopaminergic pathways, reinforcing circuits related to reward and possibility. But here's the catch. Blind optimism alone isn't enough. The brain rewires best when positive thought is paired with realistic action. You need both the vision and the path. Studies show that visualizing success is most effective when you also visualize the obstacles and rehearse overcoming them. That's called mental contrasting, and it's far more powerful than wishful thinking alone. So yes, positivity helps, but only when grounded in strategy. If thoughts can change your brain, where do we draw the line between growth and fantasy? Here's where it gets tricky. Positive affirmations can be powerful, but repeating "I'm a millionaire" doesn't rewire anything unless it changes your behavior. Rewiring is not pretending, it's practicing. In fact, research shows that people with low self-esteem may feel worse after repeating unrealistic affirmations because the brain rejects the lie. Effective mental rewiring is built on incremental belief, thoughts that feel slightly out of reach but still plausible. Like a ladder, you don't jump to the top. You take one thought at a time, and each thought becomes a step. And which is the most powerful tool? Attention. What you focus on, you strengthen. What you ignore, you weaken. Your thoughts are your weights. Your attention is your gym. Use it wisely. At its core, a habit is a neural shortcut, something your brain turns into autopilot so it can focus elsewhere. Every habit has a loop. Cue, routine, reward. Break the loop and you can break the habit. But more importantly, you can build new ones. That's rewiring. When you repeat a new behavior often enough, even if it starts consciously, it eventually becomes effortless. The brain doesn't care if it's flossing or scrolling endlessly. It builds what you feed it. Want to change your mind? Start with small, repeatable actions. The brain will do the rest.